I am not in the slightest bit surprised by this headline. That a Tate and Kirk fan, Andrew Tate and Charlie Kirk fan, stalked and killed 2 teen girls. This is absolutely the kind of stuff that we have been warning about for years. That is inevitable when you radicalize young men into thinking that if they don't take things into their own hands, whatever that means, that they're somehow lesser. That they're actively hurting the world and doing an ill upon people by not taking things into their own hands every moment that passes. When you push that onto people, when you radicalize young men with that rhetoric, inevitably, stuff like this is what happens. Not to mention, the right has succeeded undeniably in using the death of Charlie Kirk as a rallying point to get the most radical, crazy, violent, sycophantic crazies in their group to believe that it's time to take up arms, silence, or maybe even go as far as to kill the left. And while they aren't the majority by any means, they are the loudest and they are the most dangerous, which means that's how you get stories like this. A Tate and Kirk fan stalked and killed 2 teen girls. And apparently the media isn't really covering it. Like, it's not getting that much coverage by mainstream media, not as much as you would expect. Adam Mockler put a video out about this a day ago, and people have been spamming me with it, asking me to cover this, saying I would have a lot to say on this story, considering a lot of my past commentary on right-wing radicalization leading to real-world violence despite starting on the internet, where surely nothing bad that happens on the internet could affect people in real life, right? So let's go ahead and take a watch of this. I'm very curious to see what the deal is here. Adam Mockler, though being a much bigger creator than me, I will shout him out. If you like this video, make sure to check him out. He's pretty cool. Adam Mockler. Let's see what he has to say about this.
I have an absolutely awful breaking news story to bring you all, but this one is important. 2 teenage girls are dead after a disturbed 17-year-old stalked them for months, made posts about Andrew Tate and Charlie Kirk, and live streamed himself talking about Charlie Kirk, and then allegedly rammed his Jeep into them while they were biking, and now both of them are dead. Now, he fled the scene and is...
I am going to bet that kid, because, like, you gotta keep in mind, Andrew Tate and his ilk only really got popular, or they got popular, like, God, 5 years ago now? 3 or 4? No, like, it's got to have been 5 years now since Andrew Tate really blew up in popularity, or has it been sooner? My timeline on this might be a little bit off, but it feels like it was a really long time ago that Andrew Tate started getting popular. I've known about him longer than his more recent stint of popularity, but still, it would not surprise me if this kid has been watching Andrew Tate, getting radicalized by him since 2020. Yeah, for 5 years, this kid has been getting radicalized by Andrew Tate. Like, it's very possible this kid was one of those little, like, squeaker 12 or 11-year-olds that was like, oh my god, Sneeko, Andrew Tate, W. 5 years back. This is probably one of those dudes spamming Sneeko W, Andrew Tate W, in those, degenerate kick chats. Like, you know that this kid didn't, like, start watching Andrew Tate a year ago when he was 16, and a year later he's killing people. Like, this kid has been getting radicalized since he was much younger than this. That's the tragedy of this, that it's like a long-standing, fermenting problem. Like, the next horrible killer radicalized by right-wing politics online started being radicalized, more likely than not, like 4 or 5 years ago. And it's just been a long tract of radicalization leading to the day where they're going to commit that crime. And there are a lot of points where they could be potentially veered off that track, but unfortunately for a lot of them, they won't veer off. A lot of them are just being goaded further into this by the currently sitting administration, calling for more violence.
Now been charged I want to break this all down because there are live stream clips I can play you. They found his Twitter, and I do want to put a trigger warning up front. This is a uniquely disturbing video. I mean, I was sickened while reading this story. Genuinely, this one is messed up. We've covered a lot of Epstein stuff on this channel, and we've covered a lot of really disturbing stories, but this one is awful. And the stuff that this kid was posting is a really unique insight. It's a microcosm of what a lot of young men are currently going through and facing. And this is something I've been talking about on CNN.
I didn't know that we had history of his posts on social media. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I understand now why you guys were spamming this video at me and telling me to cover it. I have talked a lot in the past about these radicalized young men committing violence, and if he's written any kind of manifesto, I have a feeling I can predict exactly what it's going to say. The story is genuinely disgusting. That is true, but I see why you guys wanted me to cover it so bad. This is definitely in line with what I've been talking about for years. Like, literally since I started doing politics, really. I kind of started this channel under the whole, well, not this channel, but my politics journey kind of started under the pretense of, like, de-radicalizing people, if you will. Or at least trying to analyze the effort the right has made to radicalize young men.
And a lot lately. I've been talking about algorithms and young males. I understand this culture more than a lot of people just due to my age and due to the fact that I scroll through these algorithms. Now, I'm a normal dude, so I don't get radicalized by seeing this stuff, but
being a left-wing content creator who's below the age of 50, you kind of have to understand this stuff. It's not even a have to, you just do. You just will. Whether you like it or not, against your very will, you'll become very familiar with problems like this one.
the stuff does exist. There's a lot of hate on the internet. I'm sure you guys see it as well. This thread on Reddit from 10-minute ads reads, a Tate and Kirk fan stalked and killed 2 teen girls. Why isn't the mainstream media or Democrats talking about this? And we're going to go through this post. We're going to go through the evidence. There are videos of him live streaming immediately after and talking about Charlie Kirk. This is all very sickening and disturbing. So let's start off with this article from the New York Post, just to lay the groundwork. New Jersey teen girls killed in quiet suburb by alleged stalker who ran them down in Jeep. Quote, she made complaints and nothing was done. This article describes how one of the girls had tried to file a restraining order against the kid after making repeated complaints, and the police really didn't do anything or enact it. Obviously, they...
It's actually so heartbreaking how common this is. The system of restraining orders is so fucked, because on one hand, they can be weaponized very easily by malicious people, and on the other hand, they're oftentimes not granted when they're totally necessary and should obviously be granted. Like, it feels like maybe it's just because we only ever hear of the worst scenarios, but I'm always hearing stories of either A, a malicious party issuing a false restraining order that gets approved against somebody that they're harassing in order to engage in legal darvo against them. And then of course there's the cases in which somebody requests a restraining order and they're like, yes, this guy has been stalking me. He literally moves houses every time I move to be right across the street from me. I've caught him in my yard multiple times. The police have removed him from my property. And then still the judge is like, I don't know. I just don't think a restraining order is necessary here. And so the stalking continues to not be a violation of the law, at least in the law's eyes. There are so many cases like that. And I feel like the restraining order system, or the system of restraining orders being the way we handle stalking situations, is bad. Like, it really doesn't feel well handled. There are so many stalking cases that get through the cracks, and so many cases in which restraining orders have been maliciously utilized. I don't know. I literally had a crazy hater try to file a restraining order against me from across the country and take me to court. Like, that happened to me once. I know for a fact that this stuff happens. So it's like, is there any positive to that system?
Didn't enact it. 2 teenage girls were mowed down on Monday and killed in leafy Cranford, New Jersey by a hit-and-run driver who had allegedly been stalking one of them. 2 17-year-old Cranford high school students, Maria Niotis and Isabella Salas, were riding on an e-bike together. This is sickening. This is awful. Around 5:30 p.m. when a black 2021 Jeep with tinted windows rammed them. Both girls died later at the hospital. A 17-year-old boy from Garwood the small borough next to Cranford, was arrested near the crash scene. The article details how, quote, she made complaints and nothing was done, friend Tammy Carbajal told CBS 2. It's just a tragedy. It's just a tragedy. This brings me on to the broader thread. It says, recently you may have seen this clip going viral where a 17-year-old kid expresses his, quote, sincerest condolences to the family of 2 girls who were the victims of senseless tragedy. So this is the kid who did the killing. He went and he live streamed it after, like a deranged psychopath, and was talking about it on the live stream. For those who were unaware, that was him.
So did the police just wave it off as an accident, but then after the fact he was on social media bragging? And then if you scroll through his social media, you can also see he hated women. Like, did the police not come to the conclusion that he, intentionally killed them? Because just reading through this, the way the story has been set up, I don't feel like I got the full context of, like, what some parties say happened, what the police say happened, what probably happened. Like, I feel like I'm having a little bit of a, I'm a little mixed up going into this. So did the police opt to say it was an accident, but if you look into it more, it's clearly not? Is that the case? Zan, the cops are complicit. They are literally never on the right side of history? Yeah, that's what I'm asking right now. Is this a case where the police came to a nonsense conclusion to defend this kid?
Him talking about the 2 17-year-old girls who were rammed by a 17-year-old dude named Vincent Bataloro. Both of them died of their injuries at the hospital. Bataloro fled the scene and is now arrested and charged with 2 degrees of first-degree murder.
Oh, okay, never mind. All right. I had it mixed up. So different kid was live streaming about it.
Friends and family of the victim said that Bataloro was stalking one of the girls, parking his car outside the girl's house for 3 months, presumably Maria, which had motivated her to file a series of complaints which went unaddressed, culminating in her filing for a restraining order against him. Here's the clip of him on live stream, and you can kind of see him up there at the webcam.
To be honest with you, it was not a good game. They were swinging at so many fastballs down the middle and missing. But again, I want to make this very, very clear. I do wish my sincerest condolences to those 2 girls that were the victims of an absolute senseless tragedy, and my heart goes out to their families at this time.
This is obviously some sick psychopath stuff.
You know what that reads like? Who remembers the Kevin Spacey videos that he made and posted online after each of his victims who accused him would either go missing or turn up dead? Have you guys seen that shit? It is the craziest thing ever if you know the context. Hold on. Kevin Spacey message to his victims. I cannot help but think of this. Yeah, who remembers this? I think he did this with Tucker Carlson, mind you. This is like an anti-cancel culture thing. For reference, he's abused countless people. There are like a lineup of women who have accused him of abuse. So many of them have died under extremely mysterious circumstances. After, like, number 6 died or something like that. Young men, sorry. After, like, number 6, like, victim number 6 or something died. He put this out, and all I remember from this, because it's been a couple of years since I've seen it, was that it was insane. Like, it comes off like a Dexter villain. Like, gloating about what he's done and what he's going to do. It opens with him washing his hands. This is like some OJ shit.
What you want. Oh, sure, they may have tried to separate us, but what we have is too strong. It's too powerful. I mean, after all, we shared everything, you and I. I told you my deepest, darkest secrets. I showed you exactly what people are capable of. I shocked you with my honesty, but mostly I challenged you and made you think. And you trusted me, even though you knew you shouldn't.
Okay, I want to play the whole video. I promise you, it just goes on being really bizarre. The top comment pretty much nails it. If he is innocent, this is brilliant. If he is guilty, this is disturbing. Pretty much lays it out. Pretty much tells you everything you need to know. That I cannot help but think of that when I watch this clip.
But it gets a lot worse. Now, I talked about this on CNN, how young men get radicalized by these algorithms, but it's deeper than that. It's due to a broader lack of socialization that we're seeing in America, and honestly, in countries across the globe. Younger and younger generations are socializing less. You know, I always used to think it was dumb when my mom was like, your damn phone is gonna ruin you someday, but no, for real.
I'm gonna be honest, the more I've thought on it, the more of a cop-out answer it seems to be. I don't think it's social skills that are lacking social skills that are the problem. Not necessarily. It is one of the problems, or maybe even, I would actually argue, a symptom of the problem. So it's an understandable mix-up, but I have a different theory. I think it's the concept of the internet. Not the devices, not the ability those devices have to entertain you or whatever. I think it's what the internet has become, especially as of late, in the last 5 years, is no longer a thing of utility. We've talked about it a lot, but I've complained about it a lot, I should say, and even done a few segments about it. But Google has been exposed blatantly, undeniably, of engaging in a practice called p-hacking. Or not p-hacking, engagement hacking. P-hacking's a different thing. Engagement hacking is when let's say you're on Google and you search something because you want an answer and you know exactly what you're looking for. You're looking at what is the average lifespan of a salmon. That's what you're looking up. And you know exactly what answer you want. Google knows exactly what you're asking and what answer you want. And so there should be no bullshit, right? Obviously, this isn't the best example, but, you know, imagine you're searching something. It might be a product or something like that, especially if it's a product. When you look that up, you might not know this, but those top few results that say sponsored, those companies are paying to have that sponsored spot. They're giving Google money. And Google makes more money, much like ad views on YouTube, for every view that those sponsored recommendations get at the very top of the results page. And what Google did, and was exposed for doing, I should say, was they've begun basically lobotomizing their search algorithm. For a while, their search algorithm was not perfect, but pretty good, and it kept people on Google searching for things, seeing sponsored posts, and making Google money. But as the algorithm got better, as it became more sharp, able to figure out, even if you fill your search with typos, just based on your past searches, it could figure out what you were probably looking for. It got very, very sophisticated, to the point where Google was doing a lot of the work for you. I imagine some of you who've been online for long enough remember this. And that's when the red fire alarms went off at Google headquarters. And they came up with a plan because they realized the product getting too good was leading to them making less money. Because when you are searching for something and immediately getting what you're looking for, you're not scrolling past a bunch of sponsored results. So Google engaged in what's called, well, they started doing engagement hacking, where now when you search something, Google knows exactly what you're looking for, but it is in their best interest to hide it from you and make you do a bit more work to find it, because a certain amount of those results they're showing you are actually ads that exclusively Google are making money off you seeing every time. So if they can keep you double and triple searching for what you're looking for, rewording your like query and everything, keeping you on that search algorithm, they're making way more money off you. And who cares if the product is shit now? That's less people, more money. Everywhere across the internet is getting to be like this. Not just Google. Like, that problem alone has taken away a lot of the utility Google had to be a fast source of information. No longer can you just quickly type away on Google and almost always find a reliable answer to any question you could have. Now it's all buried in nonsense. Google will actively hide the answer they know you're looking for from you and make you do an arbitrary amount of searching before you get it, just to make sure they're making money off of you. They will make you, like, the internet has so many benefits that come with it, especially when you're young, but for the sake of making money, big tech is just burning away all of the utility and leaving behind nothing but the monetizable features. The addiction and the monetization are all that's left behind. If they can get you locked in a doom scroll spiral of shorts or TikToks and get money out of you for some kind of subscription service or something, then that's what they'll do. And so much of the internet has been shitified like that at this point, if you're growing up always online, it was probably never good for you to be a kid always on the internet. And maybe this is a boomer thing to say, but man, like, I don't think a lot of young people... Okay, take for instance Hank Green. Hank Green is a YouTuber who is famous for a lot of reasons, but a big part of his fame is that, like, if you're older Gen Z, we all watched that motherfucker do Crash Course. We watched his Crash Course videos oftentimes as part of our homework assignments. That's where I know Hank Green from. School. He was the guy who did the videos that I watched in school. That's who Hank Green was, and his brother, I think, also did it too. I watched him in class. Yeah, a lot of us watched him in class, and he was so entertaining, and we were so interested in his educational content that now as like 20-something and 30-something-year-olds, now we're still watching his videos on YouTube. You know, he's done a lot of other big shit too. He's like a co-founder of VidCon, by the way. And he's buying a ton of other cool stuff. You know, he's worked with PBS and everything, so he's known from a lot of places. But man, a lot of us know him from watching him in our classrooms in school. He's kind of our generation's Bill Nye, even though we also have Bill Nye, you know what I mean? And I think that speaks volumes. I cannot think of a figure that represents who Hank Green is for young Gen Z and Gen Alpha. There's no one like that. At least that comes to mind. I'm sure I'm wrong, maybe, but like, you know, not being part of that generation makes it difficult. But right now, it feels like young people are exclusively gravitating towards genuine brain rot content. Like, if you're under 16, 17 years old, most of your intake of content is probably pure brain rot. And I'm not saying that we didn't watch brain rot back in the day ourselves. We certainly did, but we were also watching shit like Hank Green and SciShow and stuff. Milo Rossi, I want to say I agree, and Milo Rossi is great, Mini Minuteman, but what do you think his average audience age is? I guarantee you the youngest substantial demographic he has are like 18 to 20. Like, I don't think he's got much audience that go below 18 years old. He's debunking geological conspiracy theories, okay? This is not a man who's got young, like, teen audience demographic, okay? He's got an audience of people my age and probably most of your age who are watching, which means adults. So, you just gotta keep in mind, right now, you know, we're all adults. And the kid that did this, the generation that we're talking about in the context of radicalization, these kids are not watching anything that even remotely resembles the kind of stuff that you're into. It's pure brain rot now. So is it the devices? Sure, but I think it's more about the thing they're using those devices to access, and it's not about the internet bad or whatever, internet evil, internet bad, phone bad. It's about the fact that internet and phone were once really good, and they're becoming bad at the hands of big tech CEOs, reducing utility for the sake of increasing profit. And we're all suffering for it in many, many unpredictable ways.
A lot of young people are being ruined by not just phones, but this broader culture of not socializing as much. People try to blame it on video games, but
I do think that the brain rot content, fundamentally, what I've noticed as a trend is a lot of young Gen Z and Gen Alpha, not only have they not developed mentally enough to have, like, the internal feelings of empathy that they should, usually doesn't really kick in fully until the early 20s to mid 20s. And that's understandable, but it leads to some pretty unsurprising outcomes, notably that a lot of young people on social media, when you take the combination of youth and anonymity, they act like fucking psychos. Genuine sociopaths, I should say. They're like monstrous oftentimes. A lot of it is just the fact that many of them lose whatever, if they ever had any, understanding of manners, politeness, or like caring for others. They lack these fundamental skills, and when you don't really care about anybody else, and you don't really have empathy for anyone else, and you can't really put yourself in anyone else's shoes, you fundamentally aren't going to have any social skills. Social skills require some level of empathy, and young people are not being taught empathy. It's not that they haven't developed it yet, they're not being taught it either. And the culture they're immersing themselves in demonizes empathy in a lot of ways. Maybe not so overtly as Charlie Kirk did, but it's kind of implied. And I think we're seeing the side effects, and we're assuming they're the problem. Things like a lack of social skills are a symptom of this problem.
But it's not video games. Video games are definitely correlated with a lack of socialization. So when people are more antisocial, they try to find outlets, and those outlets are video games. So it's actually a reverse correlation. When somebody is less likely to socialize, they turn to video games. Not that they are playing video games because...
Okay, wait, you know what? Adam Mockler, I feel like I'm having a conversation with him right now, because every time I say something, he addresses what I say. It's actually pretty fun. He's addressing exactly what I'm mentioning, by the way. There could be a case of associating causation when it's actually the symptom, the result. And he's talking about how some people think video games cause people to be antisocial, when it's more likely that antisocial people are just gonna more likely gravitate towards video games. And that's my point here, basically, is that, like, when you create an environment for young people that doesn't teach them fundamental skills and encourages bad habits and bad worldviews and bad personality types, I think that creates a generation of people that look like the main problem was something like their lack of social skills. But lack of social skills is what you get. That's the result.
They're more likely to be violent. There's different correlations you can draw there. But the thing is, there is a broader problem that is accelerated due to COVID. Due to the COVID pandemic, a lot of young people in their formative years in high school, college, put a bubble around themselves and never tore that bubble down. And while that bubble was still up, they got sucked down these Andrew Tate.
And to be very clear, by the way, it's all big tech. The internet wasn't always like this. The internet, being part of a social media platform, algorithms used to be centered around constantly bombarding you with new content that you might like, even if it's just a tweet, just to expose you. Like, obviously it was somewhat within your bubble of interest, don't get me wrong, but social media algorithms were designed to show you a lot of new stuff. But every passing year, it feels like social media algorithms are trying to narrow down on a smaller and smaller and smaller window of interests and posts that they will push to people. And I think this means that if you exist online 10 years ago, the internet is a path to exposing yourself to a ton of new ideas, a ton of new people, ton of new arguments, ton of new communities and interests, etc., etc. Nowadays, you're hard-pressed to discover a new show or movie you like just by browsing through YouTube Recommended or browsing through Twitter, because Twitter and YouTube and all these other algorithms only want to show you posts and memes from any piece of media or any niche or anything you've already shown interest in. And every year it gets harder and harder to discover some new niche or interest, because social media is becoming more and more afraid to take risks and recommend you something different. And this is every platform across the internet. This isn't a YouTube or a Twitter exclusive issue. This is all the algorithms are doing this more and more, locking people in increasingly shrinking bubbles. I think that's a big part of the problem too. And it all goes back to big tech going out of control during COVID, and it's just been getting worse since 2020.
algorithms, insane right-wing algorithms. I was lucky enough to have good friend groups. I remember I was pretty antisocial during COVID, but then I pulled the bubble down and I hung out with people again. I went out last weekend. I'll go out next weekend. I'm lucky enough to not get sucked purely down the algorithms. But imagine if I wasn't. Imagine if I was one of the dudes or one of the young women, I mean, it's both genders, who are just now antisocial all the time, 24/7. It seems like that's what happened. So New Jersey 101.5 then discovers Baltolora's socials and reports on them. And while they do...
I have a note here I want to add. Antisocial in modern lexicon has two meanings. We often use antisocial to mean shy, doesn't really like talking to people, not very, engaged in conversation, doesn't really leave the house much, maybe a little agoraphobic. I think most of you guys, when you hear, yeah, that guy's kind of antisocial, that's what you think of. But in a medical and psychological context, which is where I actually think this definition is way more applicable and way more useful. I think people mix that up with asocial, exactly. Antisocial, the term that comes from medicine, has more to do with a lack of ability to operate in polite society. Engaging in behaviors that are outwardly hostile to others, that fundamentally let's just narrow it down to say, they deny the general social contract that says that we should all more or less agree that what's best for everybody is best for the individual, and what's best for the individual ought to be best for everybody. You should be polite to others. You shouldn't kill random strangers or hurt them. You should be polite, maybe say hello to the guy. Like, these fundamental, basic ideas are the social contract we've all agreed to. And if you're an antisocial individual or you have antisocial behaviors, you buck all of those ideas. And ironically, I think it's the medical and psychological definition of antisocial that applies best to these Gen Z and Gen Alpha who fall into this group. These are young people who either A, haven't been taught, or B, have outright rejected the fundamental social contract, and a lot of them run on cruelty. If you don't believe me, I mean, you haven't been online, you haven't seen a lot of conservative teens posting on the internet these days, which you must be living under a rock if that's the case.
Censor the handles. There's enough info in the screenshot to narrow down the actual accounts. His TikTok is now private, but his profile picture has a 2021 black Jeep with Jersey plates. The same black Jeep, which is odd considering he accumulated his TikTok by being an MLB commentator, doing like random MLB clips. His Twitter has been inactive since 2023, but includes retweets of Andrew Tate. This is where it gets more damning. You can see at the very top, Vincent Badaloro reposted Andrew Tate saying 5 events that will change every man.
So he's definitely at least been a fan of him since he was 14 or 15 years old. At least.
Man's life, a friend betraying you, the death of your father, winning a fight, losing a fight, finding out the woman you love had sex with someone else. And then it says, they cannot keep me in this cell forever. My enemy's lies are crumbling. This is your time to play catch up. Whatever situation you're in, I want to let you know one thing is certain. It's possible. This is not just normal motivational stuff. This was when Andrew Tate was rapping all of this in a broader battle where the system of feminism and wokeness and women and all of these people were suppressing him and he had to revolt. And look at how this...
For those who don't know, Andrew Tate was under investigation by the country, like the federal government of Romania. He ended up fleeing with the help of the US government because the charges got really serious, and when Trump took office, one of the first things he did was extract Andrew Tate and basically save him from facing charges in Romania. And now he lives in Florida. I believe he is now safe from what was amounting to be upwards of a dozen sexual assault and rape charges against minors. The evidence was like pouring out in court. One of the big ones that we got, obviously there's the multiple videos of him describing his sex trafficking operation, but like, this is a dude who is like a professional sex trafficker of minors who bragged about it on the internet for a living to millions of young men who got away with it all. Yeah, he's in Florida now. Trump got him out. I don't know how many of you guys didn't hear, but I covered it all when it happened. Trump saved Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate's living it up in Florida now. He's fully escaped all consequences. How? Trump became president. It was one of the first and most popular things Trump did when he got into office. Like, his fans were screaming from the rooftops that he pardon Andrew Tate. And by pardon, I mean extract him out of Romania so he can escape the charges.
This 17-year-old kid channeled it. And then when Andrew Tate was released, Vincent, this fucking kid, tweeted out, "I used to pray for times like this." This is Andrew Tate getting released. Someone said, "Shut up, loser." And he said, "Man, who do you think you are?" What about this one on his Instagram that they reverse searched? Vincent Badaloro. You can see the name right there at the top of the screen. He was only following POTUS, Team Trump, Dugout Forever, FLOTUS, First Lady of the United States. Now, the POTUS account, the Team Trump account, they've been posting a lot of crazy AI memes. Maybe the president's account shouldn't be posting AI memes and radicalizing the United States citizens. To continue that.
Another pedo connection for the Orange Clown? Oh no, we don't shy away from saying it here. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States, is a pedophile who likes raping children. I would love to see him in court if he doesn't like me saying that. I will call him... I think I'd call him... You guys will have to forgive me, but if I get to see Donald Trump in person, I'm whipping out some slurs, bro. I'm whipping out some harsh slurs. I'm whipping out the F slur. I'm calling him a retard. But I'm definitely calling him the F slur a few times. Sorry, guys. I've saved up a lot of passes, and I've not used any of them, because one day I'm gonna see Donald Trump in person, and I'm gonna unload on him with all those F slur passes.
So, let's continue reading this main thread. His Twitter has been inactive since 2023, but contains multiple retweets of Andrew Tate, a couple tweets expressing disdain for Tate's incarceration, and a quote celebrating after Tate was released. All of this could be forgiven if he hadn't added to his collection of mortal sins by following JD Vance. He followed JD Vance on there, and I can continue clicking on these, but you don't really need more and more proof because you've seen that he's buying into this broader narrative that the system of feminism and wokeness is keeping him down or whatever. And this is something pushed by the leaders of this country. This is why a bunch of young dudes feel radicalized. And on the other side of that, the Democratic Party hasn't created quite the most welcoming environment for young men. And trust me, I'm not both siding it, I'm just saying, right-wingers are using this vacuum to radicalize young.
I fundamentally don't believe there's any merit to the idea that the Democratic Party is hostile towards men. The left, as a community and culture online, is definitely hostile towards men, but not in like a ugh, fuck men kind of way. That's, especially these days, pretty rare. It's more of like a... You know how if a content creator who's a woman, especially a trans woman, of color maybe, does something, like does thing A, it's the end of the world, everyone's freaking out. But then if individual who's like straight white guy, edgelord YouTuber does the same thing, no one cares, no one freaks out, there's no canceling, there's no controversy. It's a bit of a standards thing, you know? You kind of feel it in how much people are charitable to you on the left. But it's not like a rah-rah fuck white men thing. And within the Democratic Party, I don't even think there's any rhetoric or vibe that comes off as distinctly anti-male. I think what it really is that a lot of men are highly socialized to be disgusted by that which is proudly, loudly, and overtly feminine, right? Young men and older men alike don't want to be associated with even a fan base for a show or a movie that has a mostly female audience, right? Take that as an example. And the Democratic Party has less so pushed away men by saying things that are anti-men, and more so repulsed them by coding itself to be more feminine. And I think a good example of that is like the future is female, it's her turn, the pussy hats from back in 2016. A lot of it comes around when Hillary and when Kamala were running, but a lot of it is this like girl boss, yas queen kind of vibe that isn't anti-man in any way, but when the culture around the Democratic Party is very like rah-rah women empowerment, it leaves a lot of men bristling up their hairs a little bit because they have been socialized to not want to look girly by being part of the Yas Queen circle, you know? Like, very quickly, the Kamala administration or the Kamala campaign became associated with, like, the campaign that your girlfriend's gonna vote for. Like, so many of the memes were like, me and the boys being shipped off to war against Russia because our Taylor Swift convinced our girlfriends to vote for Kamala Harris. I saw so many memes that were exactly that. And it really goes to show that at least culturally, a lot of young men saw Kamala as like the lady candidate, the candidate for women, and Trump as the candidate for men. I think when you lean at all as the left into any kind of identity politics, it looks like it basically repulses a lot of men. If you lean too much into identity politics on race as the left, it makes white men or white people feel like they're being victimized or put down. A lot of it is just a fragility and sensitivity that I will not deny is the case. But as much as acknowledging it is all well and good, it's like, well, okay, if men and white people and et cetera, are fragile and lose their mind at the slightest bit of what they perceive as like, cringe, or even like, some other group or some other thing getting the limelight, why should we give a fuck what they think? My answer to that is, look at the most recent election results. We clearly need to care about what they think. As much as it may make us all want to quit politics, to give any credence or validity to the arguments of the dumbest people, unfortunately we have to convince them to not vote the fascists in power again, or vote to keep the fascists in power if Trump runs for a third term, which he probably will. We got to win them over. And that means appealing to and being okay with some pretty stupid people.
Young men, and Democrats haven't quite found the best response yet. That's definitely fair to say. Let's continue. This says, I need to remind you, all of these posts were made when he was around 14 to 15 years old. He committed it when he was 17. So just think about that. In his most formative years, this only proves my theory so perfectly. In his most formative years, what this guy did was consume so much right-wing, red pill, Andrew Tate. We're going to get to the Charlie Kirk of it all, but all of that content, and then he channeled it when he was 17. Now, let me caveat. This kid was obviously disturbed in other ways as well. You have to have some sort of faculty not there in your brain. You just have to. You have to be disturbed in some way, but we can also point to the accelerants and the...
I don't know if we even know if that's true, do we? Like, do we know that it's true that, like, every, or most even, people who commit violence of any kind had, like, a past history of mental illness or violence? Like, it's totally possible this kid had no history, of medical history or criminal history that would suggest he was prone to violence, and that the radicalization led him to taking these actions, not because there was, like, a wire crossed in his head, but because he'd been convinced through propaganda that this was an acceptable action to take. That's the thing. A lot of these, like, radical right-wing terrorists, I don't think a lot of them are crazy. I think a lot of them are reasonable-ish, for as much as you can say, people who were convinced that if they didn't get off their couch, take a gun, and go do terrorism right now, then, like, the Democrats were gonna murder 5 more babies tonight, drink their blood, and use it for a ritual. And if you don't do it, if you don't stop it now, then 5 more babies die tonight. And then you get a Pizzagate shooter. The guy who went to the pizza parlor, like, trying and shot it up, trying to stop kids from getting, like, molested and trafficked from the basement. You remember all that? Like, when you convince well-meaning people that if they don't get up and go out with a gun right now, kids will die, like tonight, like that day, like every second they don't get up and act, a kid is dying. When you tell normal, well-meaning people that enough and they begin to believe it, you don't have to be crazy to do what the people who believe that tend to do. They think they're heroes.
Things that are really breaking young dudes' brains en masse. You have to point it out. Now, on his Instagram, he follows JD Vance, Melania Trump, Donald Trump, Team Trump. The Team Trump account is especially heinous for posting Jeffries in Mexican garb, AI videos, calling Schumer corrupt and posting fake Trump poll numbers, posting truths from Trump that are inflammatory. The Kirk connection is even more sinister. The Charlie Kirk connection gets crazy. Going through his live streams, there is a particularly disgusting string of events that take place. This part is insane. Vincent starts off by saying he thinks Maria, the girl who was murdered, unfortunately, just awfully, that she's hungry and he should order her some pizza. He then goes on to claim that he wants to extract vengeance from her because she had accused him of sending her unsolicited pornography, which resulted in a police report being filed. He goes on to poke fun at what is presumably Maria's mother's name, which is ethnic, this says, and talks about using a VPN and burner
So yeah, blatantly planned first-degree murder, yes,
phone
clearly.
to order some pizzas for her. His
Like,
friend Evan and Kirk
that's all you need to know. This guy's, like, hate posting about the girl he killed, supposedly by accident with his car. No, yeah, this was first-degree murder. Pre-planned and everything, premeditated.
urges him to go and watch the pizzas being delivered. Wow. He then says, quote, "Hey, whenever Maria sees the pizza guy come, she better think of Charlie Kirk for making fun of his effing death. Stupid-ass clown. Just remember that." When his friend inquires about what Maria said about
Literally ordering pizzas to her house, like, that's usually step one to the, like, stalking process, is when someone's sending pizzas to your house, because they're trying to tell you that they know where you live. That's, like, meant to be a message, like, I know where you live, I can order pizzas to your house, which isn't, in itself, like, pizzas aren't scary, but the fact that they can have things sent to your house is scary, because, you know, this time it's pizza. You never know what it could be next. You know, there's people who had real human skulls sent to Ethan Klein. That's a real thing you can have mail ordered. You can order real human skulls and have them shipped. Like, there is a place where you can buy actual human skulls, and I kind of want one. Like, a real human skull, just, you know, have it up on the shelf behind it. That would go kind of hard. I don't know if YouTube would like it.
Laura says she made fun of Charlie Kirk's death on TikTok on a repost. Maybe her mother should monitor.
Has anyone done that to you yet, Zan? I'm gonna be honest, the threats of doxing have gone down to practically zero ever since I became very public about my gun ownership and my gun hobbyism. Ever since the internet became very aware that I am heavily armed, I've gotten a lot less bullshit and harassment in regards to where I live and whatnot. I've made very, very clear, you know, no matter what state you're in, if someone breaks into your home with intent to harm you, you've got every right to defend yourself with lethal force. This is America.
Her social media activity. Let me play this clip from his YouTube channel with 337 subscribers. This was streamed 9 days ago. Again, 9 days ago. It'll probably be taken down soon. This video may be flagged for including it, so just make sure you drop a like and try to help boost it in the comment section so that we can get the story out there. It's important.
Hey, whenever Maria sees the pizza guy come, better think of Charlie Kirk for making fun of his fucking death. Stupid ass clown.
Yeah.
Just remember that.
Yeah, this guy did it. This guy's a murderer.
What happened?
He's talking about his victim right now, before
Now
he did
the
it.
restaurant's calling the number. I'm not answering it. That's worth a walk. Yeah, I'm not answering that phone.
What were you saying that she... What about Charlie Kirk?
No, she made fun of Charlie Kirk's death on TikTok on a repost.
Oh, she
Maybe
did.
her mother should monitor her social media activity. So that's going to be a double play.
Okay, so this kid is obviously disturbed, but just to add some clarity to the situation. The investigation is still ongoing, but I can put some stuff together here. This kid...
This is the side, by the way, who claims the left wants to shut down free speech and just can't handle jokes. Bring back comedy! Yeah! As Elon Musk said.
was obviously caught up in a lot of Andrew Tate right-wing algorithms due to his social media. That was radicalizing him against this quote-unquote system oppressing young men, which obviously isn't there, but young men feel alone due to this acceleration of isolation from the COVID pandemic. And that's not me claiming that it didn't happen before COVID. Of course, you can trace it back to Columbine, you can trace it back to shootings before that, but I'm just saying COVID accelerated it, made it happen at a faster rate because young people of all ages felt isolated, but this guy obviously got sucked down this rabbit hole. Now, he's then backwards rationalizing violent actions and how he's going to hurt Maria, or these two girls, but in this clip he's talking about Maria, because she reposted a TikTok, and that TikTok made a joke about Charlie Kirk after he died. So for a repost, he is now using that, coupling it with his...
Retweeting, essentially the equivalent of retweeting a joke. That is his justification for murder. Or one of his justifications for murder. We really got to push harder on the idea that these people have ever cared about free speech. Like, I very much plan to keep this era of politics, like, right there on hand, ready to pull out when the right starts trying to pull the left is against free speech narrative, when they inevitably try to pull that again in the next God, it might be a week from now, it might be a month from now. But as they're censoring the left through government overreach, you know they're going to try to pull that.
His resentment, his loneliness, his isolation, and honestly, I don't think it's the video games. I've seen a lot of pundits, people on the right wing, people even on the left saying that, hey, video games are clearly causing this radicalization. But I think that's sort of a causation correlation thing. When young dudes in particular are feeling isolated, they tend to use video games as a way to channel that. I don't think playing a baseball video game makes someone more violent. They're literally playing, it's like no different than watching baseball. Let's return to the thread to continue. When his friend inquires what Maria said, he said, she made fun of Charlie Kirk on TikTok on a repost. Maybe her mother should monitor her social media activity. Man, the irony. His social media activity should be monitored. And the fact that this guy is doing this because of a TikTok repost, wow. He then says, quote, she likes to eat fat and be a pig and likes to wear makeup around because she doesn't like being insecure. Now, the only reason I'm saying and playing this disturbing stuff is because that is just an Andrew Tate-ism. That is something that comes directly from Andrew Tate. He says stuff like that.
Maria doesn't like to eat fat.
That's a ball.
She likes to eat fat and be a pig.
It becomes increasingly clear what is happening. Keep in mind, all of this is going down while his burner phone is blowing up, and he says on stream that he's just ignoring them. His next stream after harassing someone who reportedly had a restraining order against him was titled Pizza Time, lol. Taking a step back, it turns out that Baltaloro had
The Pizza Time thing, obviously, Spider-Man reference, but also a reference to the fact that he's having pizzas ordered to her house shortly before he would eventually murder her.
Another, even older Twitter account that was sporting takes from 2020 to 2022, which would have made him a 12 to 13-year-old. That was during COVID. 12 to 13 years old. And all of his posts are super normal and were mainly about baseball. Here, you have someone who was exposed to the online landscape at a very young age and was posting baseball stuff. Only baseball stuff when he was like 12. Then he was exposed to a bunch of Andrew Tate content. He was supported and consumed Donald Trump content. He held a consistent contempt for his female.
I don't know how the left does it. It's not going to be my ballpark, pun intended, but somebody needs to. Like, if you're really into, like, the big sports leagues, like if you're into baseball, basketball, football, and or soccer, the big four, if you're into those sports and you're a lefty, I encourage you to start making content. Because we are completely blind spotted when it comes to the rabbit hole from sports to right-wing politics. If you're into any kind of fighting sport, and certainly any other sport outside of that, everything from like the big like sports commentators to the athletes to just so many prominent people are maybe not themselves right-wing. Many of them are, but even if they're not, they're always like going on Joe Rogan. They're always going on the world's biggest podcasts and platforms, and that includes the ones with a decidedly right-wing bent. And so there's just a very concise rabbit hole, a sort of, I guess you could call it a pipeline, of young dudes who are just into anything from like MMA to weightlifting to football directly into right-wing rhetoric. I feel like that pipeline is way more direct than people realize, and there's gotta be, like, I don't feel like there's any progressive channel that's talking about, like, the way, I don't know, take for instance, who's a prominent conservative, actually, really it's boxing and MMA. Like, the left needs a dedicated, like, boxing and MMA enthusiast content creator who's constantly like, insert MMA fighter has dog shit politics, here's why. Like, we need content like that, because that is a massive blind spot.
Peers and justified harassing said peers repeatedly because of a response that he deemed unacceptable to Kirk's death. Obviously, it went on before that. How many times have you heard every conservative media outlet, which this kid was reasonably inundated with, justify the harassment of anyone who wasn't dressed in black, shedding tears at the thought of Charlie, quote, fuck black women, Kirk? In 2022, an 18-year-old executed a bunch of people in Buffalo, New York on a live stream and cited the Great Replacement as his motivation. Kirk goes on pandering to said Great Replacement, and on the day he was killed, a 16-year-old shot up a school for the exact same reason, and not a single MAGA is willing to take responsibility for the harm that their rhetoric creates. It's absolutely insane. What would conservatives' messaging be?
It is. And you know what's the worst part, too? It's not getting better. It's only getting worse. Trump, every time pressure builds for Trump to turn down the temperature, he turns it up. Things are only getting crazier by the day as Trump uses things like Charlie Kirk's death to polarize people against each other more and get them to be more violent. I honestly would not be surprised if internally, if we could read Trump's thoughts, if he doesn't really give a fuck about most of his followers and just wants them to be angry all the time. Because if they're angry at the left, that's time they can't spend angry at him. And if they're not angry at him, they'll continue to hand him the key to power every time he tries to take it. I think that's his game. Anyway, this particular story, I think, stands as a testament to why radicalization of young men online is still very much an issue and very much something the left needs to focus its attention on and start really figuring out modern solutions to. For a while, the left, I think, was doing a pretty good job of reaching young people and de-radicalizing them, but that was like 5 years ago now. They're not the same people anymore. It's a whole new generation, a whole new, well, not generation, but whole new sub-generation. Different culture, different vibes, different lingo, different sensibilities. They grew up in different times. The left needs to adapt and figure out how to reach these young people before the right gets to every last one of them. Because at this rate, especially with the rate at which Gen Z voted for Trump during the last election, things are not looking good. Gen Z handed Trump the election. That is what we have to acknowledge, and that's what we have to start countering. Something's got to be done. There's a very, ironically, this is a turning point in history. Will it be one in which we pivot into a positive direction, or one in which we backslide, potentially decades or a century in progress? We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, folks, if you enjoyed this video and you want to support my content, my channel, and myself, then please consider leaving a like and a comment down below on this video. Whether you're watching in the future or right now when I'm live, it really does help, the thumbs up and the comments. Subscribe and ring the bell icon if you want to see more from me in the future, and follow my social medias linked down below as well if you want to see more from me. And of course, if you want to support me directly, financially, help me keep the lights on and a roof above my head here at the Xander Hall studio, then please consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or support me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buy some custom Xander Hall merch through the Streamlabs link down below. YouTube's been super weird lately, to say the least, so your direct support has been more helpful than ever as of late, and I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, no matter how you support the channel, and as always, have a good one.